Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone, and we want to welcome you to the National Resource Center for Adoption's Workplan webinar. We are so excited to be doing this webinar and having you spend a little bit of your afternoon with us. My name is Natalie Lyons, and I am Center Director for the National Resource Center for Adoption. And before we get started, we kind of wanted to do a little housekeeping in regards to questions and answers. Hopefully, right now, you're seeing Karina Barr give an online punch. It's the GoToWebinar viewer, the CV presentations team. On the upper right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that there is a way to, everybody's muted right now, but there's a way to ask questions during the question and answer period. We're going to unmute the lines at the end during the period, so you could either use your telephone, or if you're clicked in using mic or speakers, you can use that to ask your questions via audio, or you can type in your questions on the lower right-hand side of the bar. You can just type in like a chat if you want to type your questions in, and we'll try to answer your questions that way. So there's two ways at the end. Either you can ask your question using your lovely voice, or you can type in your question using the question log at the bottom on the right-hand side. So hopefully you've been able to see that. So I just wanted to give you that. And without further ado, we're going to keep it moving. And you are at, again, the National Resource Center for Adoption Workplan webinar. Our FPO, we've had a little technical difficulty, but I wanted to say hello. Heidi Staples is our Federal Project Officer with the Children's Bureau, and I know that she would, if she was on the line using her lovely voice, would welcome you. And so we wanted to welcome you again. Again, my name is Natalie Lyons. I'm the Center Director, and also on this webinar, you will be hearing from John Levesque, who is our Director of Technical Assistance, and then our external evaluator, Dr. Sharon Lynn Harrison from Public Research and Evaluation Services, will also be joining us today to talk a little bit about our site-specific, our center-specific evaluation. So if you could, Ingrid, hit the next slide. The overview of today's webinar, basically our agenda will be for you all to meet the National Resource Center for Adoption. We're going to go over our mission, our vision, and our history. We're going to talk about the NRCA's programs and services, all the programs and services within our center. Again, we're going to spend a little time talking about our center-specific evaluation, and we're going to try to save some time at the end for questions and answers. So, a little bit about the new day in the NRCA, and I joked I wanted to have some music playing in the background and change the Village People's YMCA to NRCA, but it's a new day in the NRCA, and basically these are the people who work behind the scenes. It would be myself. I am the Vice President and Center Director for the center. I've basically been with the center since 2001, and in 2003 I became Center Director. And I'm overall, basically I'm over the center management and working with CB to ensure the goals of the center are met. We also have John Levesque, who is our Director of Technical Assistance, and he came aboard in 2003. He's formerly the Adoption Program Manager for Maine. And he really works with states, tribes, and territories on all training and technical assistance requests. He is our center's consultant liaison, and he also works with us with the National Association of State Adoption Programs, who we'll be talking about later on today. We have Janice King, the lovely Janice King, and she's been with the center since 2002. She's one of our program managers and a research analyst. She serves also as the center's coordinator for our Minority Adoption Leadership Development Institute, or affectionately known as the MALDI, and we'll be talking about that later on today. She serves as our research analyst and handles all of our secondary requests from the states, tribes, and territories. And she is the co-editor of our Roundtable newsletter. Ingrid Parks who is really the boss of everyone. I have to add a little humor to this webinar. I know you guys are laughing back on your other end, right? Hopefully you are. But she joined us in 2005, and prior to that, Ingrid served as an adoption documentation specialist with our home, Spalding for Children. Right now, she's responsible for planning and providing logistics for all of our Resource Center events, such as the Children's Bureau Policy to Practice Dialogue, which we'll be discussing, and our Minority Adoption Leadership Development Institute. And she's also key in being our center's liaison to the National Association of State Adoption Programs, and then works with the Children's Bureau's 2005 Youth Permanency Cluster, where we serve as cluster lead. Barbara Mucha is the administrative assistant, and she is our historian. She's been with the center since 1998, and she serves in the capacity, again, of administrative assistant. She is our editor extraordinaire for our Roundtable newsletter, and also does the creative layout for all of our center publications, including the Roundtable, which we'll be talking about, and our latest product, our Adoption Competency Curriculum. And then last but certainly not least is LaShawn England. She is the administrative secretary with our center, and she joined us in 2008. She coordinates all travel for staff and consultants, and also works closely with Ingrid in conference and event planning, preparation, and setup. And then we have Dr. Sharon Lynn Harrison, who you'll be hearing from later on in the afternoon. She is the president and CEO of Public Research and Evaluation Services, and she is our external evaluator. And actually, Prez and Dr. Harrison have been with us and have been our evaluator since 2002. We made a decision back in 2002 that we needed to have an evaluator really look at our services to make sure we were doing what we need to be doing. And again, we will be hearing from her later on in the presentation. Next slide, please. So our mission really is, in collaboration with the Children's Bureau, the National Resource Center for Adoption will help states, tribes, and territories and agencies increase their capacity in child welfare adoption and to help improve the quality and effectiveness of their adoption and post-adoption services. We are the Resource Center for Adoption, and our primary focus is adoption and helping states create state-of-the-art child welfare adoption programs. We feel that adoption is a dynamite plan for children and youth who cannot be unified with their families, and believe that all children and youth who find themselves who are in this situation are adoptable. So really, you know, there is a range of permanency options. Ours is adoption, and we're quite proud of that. Next slide, please. So our vision really is, in partnership with the Children's Bureau regional offices, and the TNTA network, we will support states, tribes, and territories in the achievement of systemic change that results in successful adoption of all waiting children and youth from the child welfare system. Again, we are here to help and partner to create state-of-the-art child welfare adoption programs. Next slide, please. A little bit about our history, and some of you might be aware of this and some of you might not, but we were actually established at Spalding for Children in 1985. So this year marks our 25th anniversary, and we're very, very, very excited about serving for 25 years. It's a humbling thing, and we're extremely enthusiastic about that. Back in 1985, we were known as the National Resource Center for Special Needs Adoption, and then as little as 5 years ago, we were known as the National Child Welfare Resource Center for Adoption, and today we are the National Resource Center for Adoption. So we've had 3 name changes, but we've still been here for quite some time. Also, we have provided, during our 25-year span, we have provided training and technical assistance to every state in the nation, along with the U.S. Virgin Islands and American Samoa. We've been out of the country in our 25-year history to Canada and to England and to Brazil. So it's been a journey for us in these 25 years, and we've tried to be of service and service the country and the world. Our initial focus back in the day was on training through contracts with states. Really, we were supposed to become self-sufficient in 3 years when we first were rewarded what was then a grant versus a cooperative agreement. We developed a lot of curricula on what we used to call special needs adoption topics, and we also facilitated adoption specialist conferences. In fact, then we worked with the adoption managers in the states, and we helped to facilitate conferences with them. Next slide, please. Today, in the new day, we are one of the technical arms of the Children's Bureau, and we operate as a member of the Children's Bureau's Training and Technical Assistance Network. Our focus really has evolved from one on training. We used to do a lot of training. Again, as I said before, we were supposed to become self-sufficient through training contracts. So our historical focus of training has changed to one of delivering technical assistance and consultation. And back in 2002, we developed a cadre of expert consultants committed to the enhancement of adoption practice and systems change. So to go along with that, we really, like a lot of the resource centers in the network, we utilized consultants. In August in 2002, we had our first consultant forum, and we've been doing that since that time. Even in March, the end of March, we were able to partner with the National Resource Center for the Recruitment and Retention of Foster and Adoptive Parents that Adopt as Kids and the newly created National Resource Center for Tribes to come together in training our consultants. So it's something that we really believe in, and all of our consultants really are committed to systems change. Next slide, please. Our example really is Spalding for Children. We are located in Spalding for Children, which is a child and youth placing agency, and Spalding's mission is, in partnership with families, communities, organizations, states, and the nation, to ensure that all children grow up in safe, permanent families and have the help they need to be successful in life. It was Spalding's belief since our inception in 1968 that there was no such thing as the unadoptable child. We believed that all children were adoptable. And so that belief continues throughout the Resource Center. And really, in terms of being placed in a child placing agency, we are able to really be on the pulse of what's going on out there. There's a lot of cross work in terms of looking at our Child and Family Services unit of Spalding, in terms of the work that we do now to make sure that we're at the forefront. We believe that child and youth voice, that family voice, is critical and key to all of the TNCA that we provide, and we have direct access to that to make sure that the services we are providing include that voice, because we're right here. So Spalding is a big piece of the work that we do. Next slide, please. So for today, we're really going to, and this is just an overview, these next two slides, of what we're going to kind of touch on in our short time today. The big piece being our training and technical assistance and the resources and supports that support TNCA through to the states, tribes, and territories. John Levesque will be talking about that next. We also will be covering the National Association of State Adoption Programs, who we are a partner. It's a peer-to-peer group that we provide support to. We will share with you the Minority Adoption Leadership Development Institute, our MALDI program. We will talk about our efforts in being cluster lead for the 2005 Adoption Opportunities Youth Permanency Cluster. Next slide, please. We will touch on the Children's Bureau's Policy to Practice Dialogue, or what we call the P2P, as we are the logistics person for that major high-level working meeting that will be taking place in October. And then we will also talk about the guidelines, tools, and protocols, some of the most recent things that we have developed, including the adoption competency curriculum, the roundtable, and then the two new products that we're working on now that are in the horizon, our interagency needs assessment, and then our toolkit entitled Building a Model Adoption Program Guide. And then lastly, next slide, please, we will be covering the things that are on our website in terms of our webinars and online training, MIPA, Title IV Adoption Assistance, the NASAP annual working meetings, and the MALDI Action Research presentations. So We got a lot to cover in a little bit of time, but we're going to get it done, and then we're going to provide an opportunity, I said, at the end for questions and answers. But now I would like to introduce John Levesque, who again is our Director of Technical Assistance, and he will be talking about TTA and the new day at the NRCA. So John, take it away.
Oh, hey, Natalie. Thank you very much. I wanted to focus us now on the actual technical assistance and training that the NRC for Adoption provides. And first I'd like to start off by saying we're really grateful that we're 9 months into our 5-year new grant, being awarded that, and we're very psyched to be part of. There's now 30 members of the network. We're one of them, and we're also one of the 10 NRCs, and we definitely want to kind of put out a big welcome if the NRC for Tribes and the NRC for In-Home Services are on the line listening to us, because we definitely want to be listening to them in terms of integrating the services that we provide across the OneNet. I know Jane Morgan always talks about TNTA being the meat and potatoes, but I guess since some of our staff are vegetarian, I kind of call it we're the tofu and brown rice part of the NRCA. So I'm going to kind of like focus on the basics. So as you know, the NRCs are focused on building capacity for the states, tribes, and territories that were to facilitate and improve child welfare systems and really look at improving the outcomes for children, youth, and families around the areas of safety, permanency, and well-being. And our focus is really on the adoption practice part of the continuum of child welfare services. And adoption is a distinct and kind of like stand by itself kind of practice, but it's only as good as the rest of the continuum of child welfare practice. So we kind of like have our place in with some really good company of the other NRCs that kind of carry the whole spectrum of the continuum of child welfare services. So definitely we focus on topical expertise in this area. We respond to TNTA requests, and we also serve as repositories of adoption-related knowledge and resources. And our focus is looking at the Child and Family Service Review and the Program Improvement Planning process to see really how we can help those states who are looking at needing training and technical assistance in the areas of adoption to help kind of improve and be a part of the program improvement plan. Time to adoption has been a really big focus over the last, well, I would say probably every round of the Child and Family Service Review, and it continues to be. So we're definitely trying to be on top of the use of data and identifying and helping states kind of move through the challenges of that, that adoption needs to be both a quality service and a timely service. That good adoption practice is timely adoption practice. And if you could move to the next slide, please. One of the things I'm really proud of is that there's been a lot of work done in terms of practice models, in terms of general child welfare, particularly the last, I would say, 3 to 5 years. But the National Resource Center for Adoption really has been part of actually a group of states that under an Adoption Opportunities Grant back in 1996 actually pulled together a practice model that's been in place for the field of adoption since then, and it's a really helpful framework that it kind of pulls together the common principles and approaches, and it really reflects the system of care framework as well. In fact, if you look at them, they kind of mirror each other, so I'm not sure which one kind of came first, but whatever, I think they're both really useful ways to look at providing services. And again, adoption is one of an array of services, but a really kind of important one. And this practice model was designed after some pretty extensive listening groups with families and back and forth dialogues with service providers. And there was also a review of states' best practice pilots. And after all that was done, they came up with this family-centered practice array of services that kind of focus on adoption. So we actually have a guide that's called Adoption and support and preservation services of public interest that expands on this practice model, and I believe that sits on our website, which is www.nrcadoption.org, if you'd care to take a look at that. So we'll move to the next slide, please. Just like when I worked for the state agency, one of the things that was said every day is that we're really only as good as our people. And our people we consider our consultants, who really are out there doing the direct work with the states, the tribes, and the territories. So we really put a lot of effort into selecting, educating, supporting, and retaining these consultants, because they're the ones who really interact with the states, tribes, and territories in doing this work. They're all selected because they have a range of expertise around adoption. Some are from the private sector, some from the public sector. Some have been child welfare state directors, some have been state adoption program managers, and some have come in with the experience doing clinical work and training work. So if you'd like to take a look at who we have, those can also be found on our website. And we were also really, as Natalie had said earlier, pleased to be the host of the 3 NRCs, ourselves and the National Resource Center for the Recruitment and Retention of Foster and Adoptive Parents that Adopt Us Kids, and the NRC for Tribes. We were psyched to be able to kind of pull the NRCs together and provide some education and leadership at the end of March of 2010. That was a great experience. So in terms of how we operate, it's not unlike work with family systems, that we really want to look at each state, tribe, and territory as an individual, that we don't want to go in there just, most states, tribes, and territories come to us with something that needs a kind of quick fix. And what we like to do is kind of really have a chance to get them to kind of slow down and look at what the real issues that often are underlining the kind of quick fix kind of thinking, and then how can we work with them in terms of doing that in a systemic manner that's comprehensive, able to be sustained, and also done within the context of the broader child welfare system. So if we can move to the next slide. We're also really pleased with the new direction of the whole TNTA network in terms of looking at new and evolving ways of doing business. So I think we've always tried to view adoption services within a systemic view, but it's really great to kind of like have the TNTA network meetings really focus on strategies and tools around this. And how we staff our work that we do with states, tribes, and territories is we almost always send in consultants teams of 2, and what we're trying to do is kind of replicate looking at the work from the dance floor, so the actual day-to-day practice, and also have one of the 2 consultants kind of take a backup view and look at the work being done from a balcony, so we can get both a wider systemic view and a more upfront day-to-day kind of practice view. And certainly we're learning in terms of how to diagnose issues around technical and adaptive frameworks, and it really fits, I believe, just so well with the work that we're doing, because we're often asked to come in to do kind of the quick fix kind of technical issue when it's really much more long-term adaptive challenges that we really need to kind of be focused on. So I think we're, as the NRC and ICs move along and evolve, I think we're in a really good place to use this new framework of doing business, including, stages of implementation and looking what the core components and the implementation drivers are that are going on within states, tribes, and territories to get the work done. And I particularly like, just quoting from one of the authors who talks about, we've always had, there's been this view that the system is either broken or dysfunctional, but that, in fact, every organization is perfectly aligned to achieve the results it currently gets. I think that's a really good place to start in terms of our work with states, tribes, and territories, and then help them build on, the bulk of really good work that they do, but what are some areas that need kind of more attention and need to be better adapted to what they need to do for work today. So if we could move to the next slide. Just to give you some sense of the work we've done, not over our whole 25 years, but certainly as we were preparing for this latest grant review, we kind of looked over where we had focused over the last 5 years, and there's really 8 themes that kind of come up that we've really kind of contains the bulk of the TNTA that we've been doing. Adoption assistance, Title 4E adoption assistance is definitely a big area that requires focus because states are often in these financially challenging times. Staff really need to kind of be equipped with knowledge, skills, and competencies around how do they work with families around assessing children, youth, and families' needs and providing adoption assistance that they're able to in relation to those needs. And that is one of the drivers that can slow down or speed up time to adoption. So we're trying to make sure that they're equipped in this area and that we have a curriculum that can help them with that. Cultural responsiveness has always been a really high value of the NRC for adoption, and it both kind of can sit on its own in terms of we do have a cultural competency curricula that does kind of stand on its own. It's pretty comprehensive and actually has some great tools to do agency-wide assessments and specific tools to help staff look at their values around this work and working with different populations. So I think it's really helpful. But cultural responsiveness also has to be incorporated in every piece of work we do, so it kind of gets integrated and thought of. And so as we're looking at doing systemic kind of work, cultural responsiveness definitely has to be part of the braid that's in there. MIPA and Title VI, we definitely have kind of done, there's been a surge of work in this area because there's a new training of the trainer model that Allison Palmer and Heidi Staples have been really helpful in supporting and educating us to be able to provide that work to the states. And timeliness to adoption, that is a major area of kind of focus, and we'll continue to put a lot of work in there. And we've been making connections with the NRC for data and technology, and definitely want to work closer together with them around the use of data and placement stability and all those issues that really affect timeliness to adoption. And the next slide, please. And then the next 4 out of the 8 themes. We do have a adoption competency curricula that really starts with adoption from kind of the get-go in terms of preparing and assessing children, youth, and families and understanding federal regulations and laws all the way through. I believe there's 8 modes of it, and Natalie may talk about it a little bit more, but it brings you all the way through post-adoption services. And I think with states being financially strained, it's a great curricula for them to kind of use, but they can also customize it in terms of their own policies and practice, and it's kind of built to incorporate their individual state, tribes, or territorial kind of needs. Working with communities of faith, another theme. It's a great opportunity to kind of connect in with a community that has an incredible support system in place already for children, youth, and families, and both for recruitment, for retention, for services to birth families. There's been many communities of faith who have really stepped up to the plate to be able to provide and expand their services to children and families. So we were pleased to partner with Adopt Us Kids around creating a guidebook called Finding Common Ground, which can be located on Adopt Us Kids website. That's really useful in this area. Customary tribal adoptions, it seems like that's getting some attention the last few years, and we've put some efforts and want to continue to do so in terms of supporting tribes to not have to terminate parental rights in terms of being able to have adoptions take place within tribes. So that's getting some attention, and we're very psyched to be working with the NRC for tribes around this as we look to the future. Post-adoption services, just some say good post-adoption services is the best recruitment you can have. We've been part of, I think, supporting a lot of adoptions taking place over the years, and we have to remember that these are children and youth who have suffered trauma and will have lifelong kind of issues, and thus those families need ongoing support that we need to be there for them. Next slide, please. And the work that we're doing now, we actually have 12 training and technical assistance pieces of work with states, tribes, and territories kind of open right now, which is really exciting, and there's kind of like a diversity among that. So I've already talked about the adoption competency curricula. There seems to be a surge in terms of looking at adoption, placement, and decision making, and I think there's been some high publicity cases in a number of states, which has kind of upped the ante in terms of states wanting to be pretty secure that they have a solid decision making process behind making some very difficult decisions, particularly with long-term foster parents wanting to adopt. Often foster parents and kin being in conflicting roles, both want and how they kind of like make those really difficult decisions. MIPA in Title VI, I think the exciting thing about our new training of the trainers for MIPA is that it really focuses not just on the letter of the law, but really brings in placement and recruitment practice. And I think that's the part that state, county, and local staff really need to understand how the law translates into their day-to-day kind of like work. And I'd like to think that this new training of the trainers module really helps them look at how to incorporate and integrate that into their policy and day-to-day protocols in placement practice and recruitment practice. Strengthening RTA to the tribes, I think I've talked about that. We'll certainly continue to partner with the NRC for tribes, and also I know we have talked about looking at the possibility of model customary tribal practices at some point down the road. Integrating network partnerships, definitely the CB wants the NRCs to work closely together. I would say most of the requests we have been getting have involved another NRC, so that is both really exciting and more time-consuming to kind of like integrate and coordinate all that. So that's a priority. And if we could go to the next slide. And just to quickly bring you through our process, just in terms of a quick overview of the nuts and bolts. So we do an intake process that comes out of a conversation usually between the NRC, the state, tribe, and territory, and the regions in terms of what is needed and what gets approved. And then we move and do a comprehensive needs assessment with the state, tribe, or territory. The work plan really most often needs to be developmentally done over time, so we try to work that out. Each time we do an on-site, we do a report, because I come from a place where I've been really taught if it's not documented, it didn't happen, and it's really important that the good work that the NRC for adoption is doing gets documented. So we really have spent a lot of time and a lot of effort with our evaluation staff as well to make sure that we have documentation as well as evaluation. Systemic thinking, I think I've kind of covered that, and you know, we definitely continue to look forward to our work with the NRCs, the ICs, and the other 15 members of the Children's Bureau's network. And I think I am probably ready then to turn it back to Natalie, so thank you.
Okay, I think I'm back on.
I hear you.
You hear me? Okay, great. Uh-oh. Just 2 seconds here. And this is John's visual. We are excited about the new day in the village. Again, think about that YMCA music by the village people. So next slide, please. Okay, so we have a number of resources that we utilize to support training and technical assistance, and you can go to the next slide. They include secondary research, the use of our NASAP listserv, a partnership with the Child Welfare Information Gateway, the Adoption Competency Curriculum, and a couple of webinars and online training that we have. Next slide, please. So the secondary research really involves a summary or collation or synthesis of existing research materials that are already out there. As I stated previously with our staff, Janice King is the main person at the Resource Center that kind of gathers this research for us, and usually a representative from a state or tribe might ask to see what is available in a particular adoption practice, and Janice does a very good job in trying to collate and gather this information for us to provide. We also utilize a number of MSW students. We believe in having students participate with us in the work, primarily from the University of Michigan Ann Arbor, and then our local university here. We're located in Southfield, Michigan, so we're right outside Detroit, and so we utilize students from Wayne State as well to help us in this compilation. The NASAP listserv. Next slide, please. Usually, a state adoption program manager might contact us and ask us to post a particular question that they have on the listserv. And so the NASAP group is really good once we post those questions in terms of their response. And we actually gather that information and give it back to the requester. And so this is a good tool that over years has been really utilized. We get numerous questions. I would say we probably get a question a week or every other week in terms of states wanting to know information about how other states handle business. And so we compile that, and again, we distribute it back to the requester. Next slide, please. We also utilize the services of the Child Welfare Information Gateway. So shout out to CWIG, who is fabulous. They're fabulous. We've actually partnered with them to hold direct links on our NRCA website for adoption practice topics. So if you're looking for, like, for instance, articles on kinship adoption or, you know, whatever adoption practice that you're looking for, you can actually go to our website, click on that link, and then it will take you directly to CWIG's website where they will show you the host of articles that are available. So that is something that we also use in terms of interfacing and collaborating with them. Next slide, please. Some of the things that we have on our website right now, and John talked a little bit about the TNTA, our on-site package of TNTA with MIPA and Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. But we also have an online training with the fabulous Allison Palmer from the Children's Bureau Policy Division on the Multi-Ethnic Placement Act as amended in Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 that can be viewed. This particular web training we also distributed to all of the states in our fair land, so they have a copy on DVD as well, but you can also point again and look at it online. Negotiating Title IV adoption assistance is another web training that's on our website. Really, it's Title IV adoption assistance, everything you wanted to know but were afraid to ask, parts 1 and 2. And that was actually, we taped Kathy McHugh and Miranda Lynch at the Children's Bureau Policy. They did a wonderful job. It was a live webcast that was in 2 parts, but we have taped it, and the archive is available for viewing on the website. The National Association of State Adoption Programs, and we're going to be talking a little bit about them quickly coming up, but we have begun taping some of the general sessions of their annual working meetings and having them hosted on our NRC website, which is another tool that people can be able to look at and to view. Our Minority Adoption Leadership Development Institute, our participants are involved in action research. And their presentations are also made available on the website, as well as the last Policy to Practice dialogue. The general sessions from the dialogue are also made available from download from our website. So we have a host of different things that you can take a look at on the website, and we're going to continue doing this because we know that it has been a help and a benefit. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the adoption competency curriculum that we've been referencing throughout our chat today. And you can go on to the next slide. Really, this curriculum is an update on the 1992 special needs adoption curriculum that a lot of states had continuously used, even in the 2000s. And so we wanted to update this curriculum. It's a video-driven curriculum, and there are 7 modules that basically stand alone. And you see the modules there from federal laws all the way through compassion fatigue. And within each module are segments that can be used. And we've had a really great response from states with this new tool. We've done a lot of trainers utilizing the adoption competency curriculum. These modules are also available for download off of the center website. And we have sent hard copies of the curriculum to every state, and we've also sent a copy to CB Central and the CB regional offices. So we still continue, again, like I said before, to get a lot of positive feedback. These modules can be customized so that they can contain states' own policies and procedures within them, and again, they can break them apart in terms of segments because it's really a huge hunking thing. If you guys have seen it, and hopefully you have because we sent it to you, you'll see how big it is, but we've tried to put everything about adoption from A to Z to aid states in using. Next slide, please. Another publication that we produce twice a year is our Roundtable newsletter. The last issue that we just completed was on timeliness to adoption, and usually we highlight state practices within the Roundtable, and so this is also available via download from the center's website, and we also email copies of the Roundtable. We have a Roundtable email list, so if you're not signed up, please go to our website and sign up for this. It's a great resource, and all of our Roundtable newsletters from way back in the day are available for download off the center's website. Next slide, please. There are a couple of products that we have on the horizon. One is our interagency needs assessment, and this really is a new assessment tool that we hope will support states in assessing their adoption practice as it relates to best and promising practices. And we use the information. It's a build off of our from our adoption competency curriculum. Really letting the state, actually it will be an online survey format where they can actually go online and answer specific questions regarding adoption practice. Next slide, please. I'll show you the modules for the agency assessment they can use. It ranges from child and youth assessment and preparation, family assessment and preparation, decision-making and placement selection, and post-adoption services. States can actually click on a survey link and answer questions, and they will be able to see where there might be gaps in service regarding their particular practice. And this might also be an avenue for them to then request training and technical assistance from our center if they're noticing that there's some possible gaps in the work that they're doing. Next slide, please. And that's coming. We will send a blast to let you guys know on the email and listserv when that is available. Another new product on the horizon is our Building a Model Adoption Program Guide. And this guide is really focused on helping states, tribes, and territories, again, assess the status of their adoption program. We really want to promote discussion on the local, state, and national level on what are the strategies to achieving timely adoption, the best and promising strategies. Really promoting culturally responsive services, looking at interdisciplinary approaches to meet the needs of waiting children and youth, and creating effective post-adoption programs, and then what does it mean to really engage in meaningful stakeholder involvement. So this is a new tool that we will have available. It's due to be published in January 2011, so we're really excited, and we're in the stages of preparing that guide. Next slide, please. Some of the other NRC programs and services that we will now discuss include NASAP, MALDI, and the 2005 Adoption Opportunities Youth Permanency Cluster, and the Children's Bureau's Policy to Practice Dialogue. So let's first talk about NASAP. Next slide, please. Really, NASAP started as a collaborative dialogue with several adoption program managers and what we were then called the National Resource Center for Special Needs Adoption back in 1996. And its purpose really is to provide a forum for adoption program managers to really pool their expertise and develop and maintain state-of-the-art adoption programs, as well as a networking avenue for the program managers. Again, we work as a partner to help them support their meeting, and we do have dedicated web pages, including archived tapings of the open sessions from their annual working meetings. They do meet annually in Washington, D.C. on our website. One of the new components and one of the new supports that we will have for NASAP, our Leadership Learning Institutes, will focus on a particular leadership issue. This year we're really going to look at implementation science, as it turns out, and we will have some presentations made to them and some hands-on work with them in regards to that area. So it is a great group of folk. It's a great networking opportunity. It's one of the peer groups that we support. Next slide, please. The Minority Adoption Leadership Development Institute, otherwise known as MALDI, and hopefully you guys have all heard about our wonderful MALDI program. Really, the goals of MALDI are to promote professional leadership development of minorities or members of color in the adoption field, and to help prepare participants to become leaders in state adoption programs and child welfare programs, and also give participants the opportunity to contribute knowledge to the field. We are basically in phase 3 of MALDI, but the program, next slide please, we really are, what we're trying to do within this grant period is to touch up to 20 emerging leaders of color from states with large numbers of children of color waiting to be adopted and high disproportionality rates. The participants will be mentored by their state adoption program manager supervisor. And then we also have 2 super coaches who are available to provide additional support, guidance in meeting the program goals of the program. Next slide, please. The components of the MALDI really is we have a formal application process. We provide mentor training and mentee training. We have on-site learning sessions where we go over child welfare topics. This time we're going to be having our on-site learning session in Detroit this year in August, and it will be 3 days long. We have action research projects, which are 12 months in length, and they're really on-the-job assignments where the participant looks at a particular issue within their state system and try to apply an intervention for improvement. We try to provide the opportunity for the participants after their action research projects to talk about what they've learned and contribute knowledge to the field. We look at evaluating the MALDI program, a 360 assessment of leadership skills. We begin that before they come with us, and we try to see how they've done after we've touched them. And then one thing that we have that's new is the MALDI Alumni Association. In our meeting, like I said before, which will be in August in Detroit this year, we will be bringing back some of the MALDI participants from our Phase 1 and Phase 2 of our program. Next slide, please. And so just so that you can take a look at Phase 1 was from January 2005 to December 2006. And there you see the states that were participating in Phase 1. And Phase 2 was 07 through 08, and the states are listed there. Next slide, please. And we just finished the application process for Phase 3, which will be our 010, 011 class. And these are the states that were selected, participants from these states. We are happy that we will have 2 tribal representatives in our Phase 3 cast, one from Michigan and one from Oregon. So we're really excited about Phase 3, which will, the first on-site, again, will take place in August. Next slide, please. So another program or another support or service that we offer is support to the 2005 Adoption Opportunities Youth Permanency Cluster. And really this cluster is really looking at, there were grants that were granted back in 2005, and they're really looking at strategies for introducing the concept of open adoption to youth and sibling groups, strategies for connecting youth to adults to promote a range of permanency options, effective models of youth leadership and collaboration between youth, and then a great evaluation and dissemination model and strategies and looking at what has been effective. And we provide support to this cluster. We've provided support there in their last year, and we've developed great relationships. A lot of their products and materials that they have developed, we wanted to provide in real time for them, and we have pages on our website that are dedicated towards their product and tools that they've developed. So I encourage you to take a look at the website. You'll see Youth Permanency, a big box on the front page. Take a look at the work they've done. It's been tremendous and phenomenal, and there are a lot of lessons learned. Next slide, please. Upcoming, the Children's Bureau's 2010 Policy to Practice Dialogue. And really, this dialogue is a high-level permanency meeting, really focused on exploring good practices and strategies for achieving permanency for children and youth in child welfare system. We encourage all state foster care, adoption, and in-home service managers to participate. We encourage them so much that the Children's Bureau has placed within our budget their costs to actually participate. We pay all of their travel costs and expenditures to come to this meeting. And this year it will take place in October 4th and 5th, 2010, at the Ritz-Carlton, Pentagon City. And basically the focus will be on fostering connections as well as other implementation issues that state agencies are looking to address. So you, the network and the regional offices, you will be hearing about it, and we hope that you come join us in D.C. in October. And so now, next slide, we're going to have Dr. Sharon Lynn Harrison, who's going to really provide us some brief information on the center-specific and cross-site evaluation. Sharon Lynn?
Thank you, Natalie, and good afternoon, everyone. As Natalie said earlier, Public Research and Evaluation Services has been providing evaluation support to the National Resource Center for Adoption since 2002, and we are very pleased to be part of this new day in the TTA network. Next slide, please. The plan for continued evaluation support to the NRCA is much influenced by the relevant components of this new direction of the network. For instance, like with the theme of collaboration and coordination among the network, the evaluation strategies employed by PRESS, including documentation components and forms and protocols, are designed to provide seamless, user-friendly processes necessary to ensure the NRCA's full participation in the new day directions. Another example is implementation science and adaptive leadership. We are already seeing the need to be very flexible in how we decide to evaluate support to the states, as these two components are utilized in the technical assistance efforts. We have processes in place for ensuring that reliable and accurate data is provided for OneNet, the new system for tracking and reporting of all TTA provided. Additionally, as part of the NRC evaluation work group, and that's a typo there, it should be NRC, we are very active in learning and sharing with the esteemed group of evaluators that are providing support to the NRCs and with James Bell Associates in their focused work as the cross-site evaluator. Next slide, please. So just a reminder of some of the new day components include collecting and utilizing evaluation feedback for constant self-improvement. We work very closely with the NRCA to develop strategies for evaluation of their work and providing feedback in a timely manner so that it can be used for constant self-improvement. The TTA evaluation process involves many steps, including assessment of needs, planning of assistance, and documentation of activities, as well as collection of customer feedback throughout the work, all the way to follow-up interviews 6 months following the report. You won't believe this, but I have a call coming in, and so I'm going to hope that they'll hang up in a moment. And I hope I'm not breaking up as I speak. I spoke earlier about full participation in the national evaluation and how our work with the National Resource Center for Adoption is designed to ensure their full and prepared participation, including presenting their self-evaluation findings to the Children's Bureau and the TTA network. Next slide, please. We also provide support to the Interagency Needs Assessment, and we'll be working with the NRCA to ensure that states have the capacity to conduct program evaluation and quality assurance functions, and I'll speak a little more about that in the next couple of slides. Next slide, please. In addition to the evaluation processes focusing on training and technical assistance and the support provided to the Interagency Needs Assessment, we work with the National Resource Center for Adoption to evaluate the adoption competency curriculum and have developed pre- and post-test and feedback forms useful for states as they implement the curriculum following the train-the-trainer process. We also work in MALDI by assisting with the on-the-job action research projects, and we work with the center in their work to document evidence-based and evidence-informed practices. Next slide, please. And on the horizon, too, as we seek to help states conduct program evaluations and quality assurance functions, we are planning a model protocol for helping states learn how to utilize evaluation and to document promising evidence-based and evidence-informed practices, which may involve feedback from families, which we view as really major for determining the true impact of the NRC's efforts. Next slide, please. Just some suggested topics that may be included in that model protocol that we're looking at possibly making available on the NRC's website for states to go and to learn how to do an evaluation plan and how, again, to conduct an evaluation and quality assurance process of their work. So we'll talk about some basic ingredients to conducting evaluation and quality assurance, some of the major types of evaluation, some methods to collect data, including interviews, focus group, questionnaires, and surveys, how you select the best methods, how to analyze and interpret information, as well as how you report and use that evaluation information for making sure that stakeholders know about the work that's going on in your state and how to use that evaluation information to improve the quality of your work. Next slide, please. So we're hoping that this protocol possibly can become a component of TTA. And again, as I said earlier, it will be designed to help states learn how to document their work and also to begin that work in developing information about successful processes so that the states are learning how to document evidence-based and evidence-informed practices and contribute information to the field. Next slide, please. So in closing, we are looking forward to this new direction in the network and how it is impacting the work of the National Resource Center for Adoption as it seeks to improve outcomes for children and youth in the child welfare system. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon Lynn. So we want you to contact us. We're here for you. We're here to help, and we're here to partner with you. And now I think we're going to have Ingrid unmute all of the lines, And we're going to take questions and answers. If there are any questions and answers from you all, thank you for being so attentive. Answers. Is everybody there? Okay, I'm unmuted again. I was talking and trying to talk to the group. Love technology. I see there's one question from Amy, and Amy asks, who is the intended audience for the adoption competency curriculum? The adoption competency curriculum is for actually not just adoption specialists or those who are doing adoption in the agency, but it was created for ongoing workers, supervisors, and CPS staff. We really look at the continuum of what needs to go into having good, timely adoption. So the focus is for everyone in the child welfare system. So that is who the intended audience is for that curriculum. And Amy, if you don't have a copy, if you want to preview, please don't hesitate to look at our website, and then we can also make sure if you'd like a hard copy, shoot me an email at nlyons, Lyons, at nrcadoption.org, and I will send you a hard copy. And if people want to type in their answers, I'm understanding that we have more than 25 people, so technology, we're not able to unmute all the lines, but if you raise your hand, we can have you ask your question via audio, or if you'd like to type in a question on the right-hand side of the chat box, we can answer your question that way. Well, okay. Well, maybe we were thorough and there are no questions now, but if you should happen in the middle of the night to think of a burning question for the National Resource Center for Adoption, please don't hesitate to contact us. Our telephone number is listed there, 443-0306, area code 248. Our general email address is there, or I've just provided my email address for you all, which is nlyons, Lyons, at nrcadoption.org. And please go ahead and hit our website. We have some pretty cool things on the website. So I'd like to thank all of you for participating in this webinar, and I'd like to thank John and Sharon Lynn for being with me and providing this information. And we so look forward to working with you all for the next 4.5 years. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a fabulous day.